Welcome, Poggers, to another episode of the PogState. This one is all about the rounding out of round one. Using rounding was perhaps a mistake. However, let's move on. Valdes, Wolf, and Chronicler will be joining me today as we look to break down some of the results that are in. And this could have been a less interesting episode if the results of today's matches were not revealed. We are, of course, recording on Sunday evening after our 6-game banger, where the bros managed to do it. They managed to take down T1, much like B&K FearX were able to do a match or two prior to that. And we'll have to discuss a whole bunch of what has gone on here in the LCK, because I think the top of the standings are not necessarily what all of us predicted coming out of round one. And of course, still very, very early on. We have so many rounds this time around, given the fact that there is no official spring final this time, format changes and all that. Of course, we will take a break for MSI, but it's like one big old season, and it's all about getting into these Legend and Rise groups and getting them sorted out. Gentlemen, how are we feeling after our first round robin has almost concluded?
I think I actually predicted this exactly for the end of...
that was going to be my zinger, dang it.
For the end of round two.
I definitely had T1 on fourth.
Yeah, no, I had T1 in fifth at the end of round two. But at this point, maybe they're not in fifth. Maybe they end up in sixth or maybe even seventh. I mean, we've had seasons where T1 didn't have the best roster in the world or in the LCK, and they were eighth, you know? What year was that, 2018?
2018? That was 7 years ago.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
It has been a while. But there are times, there are ebbs and flows, you know?
Indeed.
I think everybody's expecting, it's T1, you know, they've won Worlds back-to-back. Surely they're going to be in our top five. Well, I think with this new roster, based on what we've seen so far, probably not.
So earlier, Atlus did mention rounding, and if you guys remember...
Oh no, he said it again!
Yeah, if you guys remember when you're in elementary school, they teach you this weird type of rounding called front-end estimation, where you just take the front number, and if you round 49 to 40 for some reason. It's a really weird thing that you learn in America.
Oh, right, so it's like just round to
we call it
down.
front-end estimation. My estimation for the LCK is very much in the front end, where I'm very excited about Genji and Hanwha Life after round one, and everybody else, who knows? I'm not that interested. I'm mostly interested in watching Genji and Hanwha Life play League of Legends. The other teams, you know, they have good days and bad days. So for some of them, more bad days than good days.
There are some teams where the good days are actually good to watch, though, as long as you skip the bad days.
So it's like, that's kind of the
game
DK Nongshim zone.
Absolutely.
T1-ish?
T1
Yeah.
sometimes, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember T1 in...
B&K? Oh, no, not anymore.
T1 and LCK Cup.
For a
actually,
moment there.
Do you remember LCK Cup prior, like at the very beginning of this year?
No.
Where they were basically won against Hanwha Life. Yeah, I remember that series.
And do you remember prior to that best of five? Cast your minds back, ladies and gentlemen. Try to remember the state that the commentators were in and the spaces here at the LCK. What were we talking about before the T1 Hanwha Life Esports series? I think we were talking about T1 being possibly the best team in the LCK.
That was kind of what I was
At that
postulating.
point
That was
in
my
time.
hot take. I remember.
It was because Chovy was playing 8 hours of TFT a day, as it turns out. And then
Also, you know,
stop doing that.
I said this on the cast a little bit today, but at the time when D+ was in first place in LCK Cup's regular season, which was, it's weird to call it a regular season, but the group battles,
Yeah.
Yeah, group stage.
their drafting looked not only creative but also insanely robust. Like every single draft, I was like, damn, they really hit it. And I kind of feel like we kind of carried that a little bit. Like we're like, oh yeah, their drafting is really good. We kind of kept using it as a narrative point. After watching today and some of their most recent matches, I'm like, their drafting is creative. The good part, I'm not really confident to say it at the moment.
Yeah, it's a little bit like, it's like LCK Cup was the Matrix, and now that we're in the LCK, we're getting to reloaded territory and stuff like that, where it's not feeling like Lana's best work.
I think they wish they could reload some of those drafts.
Do you know
I
I
actually...
sorry to cut you off
you go
again,
first.
Chronicler, but
He's used to it. It's fine.
this is still on topic. I found out that Speed Racer was written by the same person. I didn't even realize that.
They're a duo, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Wachowskis made also Speed Racer.
Yeah.
And so people were saying that they're not geniuses. They just stole the Matrix, right? And that's a fluke. But they also made the other one of the best films of all time.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh
quite a
my
lot
God.
of the casters in Korea are big fans of Speed Racer.
I've-
Just so you
I've-
guys
Yep.
know.
I know
No
that you and
feelings on this matter.
Achilles used to like watch it every second night
Yeah,
when
we
you were in
used
LA
to watch it like every second or third night, at like 4:00 in the morning. And sometimes
guys
we
made
only
me
got
watch
to
it
the
one
first
time.
scene,
I fell
and we were
asleep.
like, "This is the best scene," and it's okay.
It was a very late night.
That's the most Valdes coded thing I've ever heard. Where it's like they made me watch a movie. I fell asleep.
It wasn't the first time.
Well,
with
while
Wolf either.
Achilles is going in like, and this is what was meant
was
by
doing
this
that.
scene.
He
That
was
would have
doing
been
that, yeah.
what put him to sleep. Because Valdes is probably like, I'd be okay with watching the film, listening to someone talk about the film while it's happening. Probably not that interesting.
It was also
Anyway.
like 4 a.m. and there were a lot of drinks involved.
Yeah.
It was a good night though.
Yeah.
It was a bit
That's
late.
perfect. That's
Yeah.
perfect Speed Racer territory. That is our little fun pop culture tidbit. Now back to whatever Chronicler was going to say.
I haven't seen Speed Racer.
Well, you should. It's actually a
now
phenomenal
well, actually,
narrative. Never mind.
the situation actually, but the directors that helps. No, I was gonna branch it to DK, but I feel like we should do the teams in order. Maybe. Do we want to start from the bottom and go through it quickly?
And now we're here.
Yeah. Or
Um,
do we want to
really
start
want
from
to
the
talk about DNF?
No,
or-
that's why I'm saying quickly.
I actually think that we start at the top,
Okay.
and then decide that we're out of time part of the way down.
After talking about T1 for 50 minutes straight. Yeah,
So,
I like that.
Genji-
I like that plan.
No notes.
What about, so we're doing this before the final week of round one is actually going to be occurring. Of course, it's halfway through the week, and then we get that sort of cutoff on Friday after the first series of the day.
2-0 KT, yeah.
Well, this is the question, right?
I already
matter.
answered it, yeah.
Okay.
It doesn't. No. We talked about this. I think that it did. Now it's become too obvious. So it's going to be Genji's going to get a crazier streak, and then the second time they face a
That makes
Bro
more
KT.
sense. Yeah, Genji's gonna 2-0 KT. I feel pretty good about that.
The
to make
more
it clear what I
sure
meant.
you are, the more concerned I am.
Yeah, but it
It's
goes in loops,
unlosable.
right?
It
It's
really
circular.
does. It's, yeah.
So the more you believe,
It's unlosable, honestly.
Really with Genji, there were two parts in LCK Cup that we weren't super stoked about. Was Duro's performance was very clearly trying to kind of get into
Yeah, he was
the-
looking young.
Yeah, really. And also is a really big, he was on Sandbox where there was no expectations from him. Going to Genji, where the expectations are sky high.
Playing with ruler.
Yeah, playing with Ruler. And Chovy was not playing that well. And then,
And Canyon too was kind of
yeah,
iffy.
K was kind of iffy.
Yeah.
And now
Yeah, now we're getting the Z jungles. We got the
Duro's
flexing.
good.
And
Like, I
Duro's
wouldn't,
amazing. Some of his headbutt taxi polves
Yeah.
have been so sick.
I think right now, is he second best support?
Who's the best?
Behind two.
Delight.
Yeah, okay, fair.
I still would, I think Delight is the whole
Yeah.
package.
I mean, it's really just like if
I mean,
you
Barrel.
believe in Barrel, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, but Barrel on a...
Barrel is sort of outside the
Well, that's
tier
that.
list, isn't
I
he
figured
exists up here nebulously. So then, yeah, Delight and Duro, I think.
because I think he's been super confident, has shown a variety of different play styles, and that was for me the big
And
weakness.
consistently good as well. I think there's some players that have had some pop-off days,
Yeah.
but not being able to replicate it
Oh,
in
the day
others.
of Callan.
The day of... I mean, honestly,
sick. He
there
was
are
so
a
I'm not
lot of days
joking.
of Kellen. It's actually kind of crazy. His glove... I'm putting him in the top 5 at least.
In the laning phase. In the 2v2.
I
Where
feel-
Diablo does the shoot.
I feel like I fall into the trap of recognizing growth and then massively over-indexing on how I feel.
I do
so
love
like,
that.
yeah, I see Kellen doing so much better than last year, and I'm like, he's amazing. You know, even if he's not necessarily at the level of Delight, but it's because Delight's just been good forever.
I think Duro is definitely very consistent. I think it's really easy to look good too when your team is always like you're
course.
never really clearing enemy wards because you have all the wards, because you have all the control, because you have all the winning lanes, because you have all the objectives. But I do think that he is making far fewer mistakes than he was in LCK Cup. I do agree with Chronicler, and I think if I really had to say based on what we've seen and like the data we do have, which is not a lot of Genji losing and him trying to make it the comeback and making sick engages, I think he's probably still second, yeah, to Delight.
I think actually the T1 series is what really kind of puts him ahead for me, just because that was a really close series, right? And with the added context of the most recent games, I think it still remains a really huge performance from him because it was in clutch moments that Duro was actually making plays and
Exactly, yeah.
identifying exactly the moments to go in in the highest possible stakes. Because Lolpark is on fire. It's electric in those days.
The Gen
right?
GT1,
Like the
yeah.
Gen GT1 days is like standing room only, right? It's not actually the case because you have to sit down, but still, it's like it's packed.
Figuratively.
And he
literally.
he played up
Only
to
outside.
it, and he did really, really well. So
I mean,
I'm
it's the
very
confidence
impressed.
to just slam the crank and be like, if
Oh.
we lose, it's gonna be my fault because that's just the type of pick it is. Mm-hmm. It's awesome. They're just, and it's a Kenyan team, right? So if Kenyan or if Keen or Chovy start struggling, then Kenyan's gonna look worse because he doesn't know how to play from behind nearly as well as many of other good junglers. I think Ruler has had some spotty performances, but
Yep.
the whole package for
The
this
NF
team.
from Ruler. Yeah, that was rough. I think that Chovy is really, really on form right now. I think the only person who's kind of close to him is obviously Zeka.
yeah.
But even then, I feel like Chovy's just so far and beyond. And lo and behold, all it took was just a bit more practice and a little bit less TFT, right?
My
and
favorite meme of
caring,
2025.
caring a little bit more about it. You know, the LCK is fully starting. He gets right back into gear, and now he's like deathless for 7 games in a row, I think it was. And yeah, it's against Bro and DNF and one of the BNK games or whatever, and DRX, but it's still
still
kind of
7 in
hard
a
to
row.
not
It's not
die
bad.
7 games in a row.
I
So I
do-
feel like he's just the best right now, and he's kind of carrying. I feel like if you got a guy in mid who always wins lane and always gets ahead, it's just kind of OP
With a
in
big
this meta.
champion pool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love it was a mistake to allow Chovy to play a mid lane champion.
That's a really good meme.
And I think that for me, the only question for Genji is how long can they maintain this form? Will there be an element of burnout? Like, what wall do they hit? Is it going to be a meta shift that does them in? Is it going to be an international performance like MSI where they struggle, as they have historically? I mean, they won MSI last year, obviously, but international events have been where they have had their biggest challenges, I feel, oftentimes. If you have a bumpy MSI, you come back domestically, you're not looking as good. Like, those are the only questions we have, but those are just like ideas and concepts of like the team falling apart that is hard to see. But I do feel like if you're this good for this long, like eventually, like there might be some cracks. Like eventually people will find some weaknesses. I don't think they're going to have like a perfect run through double round robin before we go to MSI qualifiers. I don't think it's going to be the perfect season, even though they look to be so incredibly dominant right now.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting putting like Gen G up against HLE as far as what our international expectations are going to be. Because I think that like whoever we put in our top 3 into first stand would have just come out looking about the same way.
Yeah.
And so in any of those best of 5s, if game 5 had have gone to a different team, I think that team probably would have just gone on
I'd
to
say
win.
top any of the top 5.
I'm more just
honestly.
talking about like because we literally had all of those
Yeah,
best
yeah.
of 5s that went
yeah,
to 5 games.
Yeah, because it was Hanwha went to 5 against T1, DK, and Genji.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Nongshim beat Genji but then lost.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So I
Like,
guess
that
it's
actually
top 4.
happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think Nongshim actually probably would have won first stand. I think we already kind of set the bar there, right?
All right. So it's top 5.
But that was during first stand. Obviously, performances of the of some of the other teams that are in Genji and Hanwha Life did take a bit of a dive.
A little bit of dipping.
So Hanwha Life, no notes.
I mean,
They're basically the same. They kind of just woke up from their slumber. They're
I
after first stand slumber.
They had
They're
like a
back.
week off.
Yeah,
right.
A couple of weeks, I think.
I
It was
feel
like a
like-
week and a half,
Week and a half.
maybe a couple.
Game
of
3
series.
versus DK, Zeus' performance against Shiu is the perfect like definition of what HLE are. They might get solo killed by a Scion, but they will still look completely unstoppable in the mid game, no matter what you do. You literally can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
Zeus in that game, solo killed by Shiu. They had so much control. Things were beautiful. And then all of a sudden, he's 1,000 gold ahead, chilling in a side lane, taking turrets. They get feats of strength, and they just win the game. DK get annihilated.
Their team fighting is just like it's because of Delight and Peanut. Like their team fighting is
Yeah.
better than any other team.
Yeah. I also think that if there's one thing that Hanwha could improve on is Zeus' consistency. Like, I think 9 out of 10 times he hits everything you expect, but there's the 1 out of 10 game, especially like earlier this season, earlier in LCK Cup, where you're like, this is weird. And then you're like, oh, okay, it's fine, no worries. He's still incredibly good. He can play Olaf randomly and pop off and, beat Keen's Vayne and stuff like that. So, like, that's if we are going to find one
if
thing
you're
to say,
nitpicking. Yeah, of course.
I feel like Zeus has had some off moments and off games where he plays oddly nervous, and then he just like forgets that he's nervous and just plays fine. So maybe that's something that's exploitable, or maybe he'll just get over it. I don't know.
I think their coaching staff is really impressive. I really like what Dandian, I think it's Mowgli, right?
Mowgli,
That's on
dude.
Hama Life.
Mowgli's
He's
like,
so good.
Why is he
from
always
DRX.
there? Because
He's
he was there
always-
2022.
He's always on the best teams.
Yeah, man.
It's always like the former pros that actually understand the game, not the ones that just have the amazing hands. The ones that actually understand the game, like Mowgli, who was kind of like in and out of the roster for what was that team? It was on. Was it Afrika or was it Longchu?
I want to say Afrika.
It was back.
I think it was Afrika or
Or
it
the
was
Kingzone Dragon
Rox
X.
or Hanwha.
I just remember him
Yeah.
being in Challengers in 2021 together with Roach Top.
He also went to
Yeah.
Europe
that
for
happened.
a bit.
He did, yeah.
He did.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. Like their coaching staff is fantastic. I think their drafting is amazing. Afrika, yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
And I also think that this meta is really great for them because like Delight can play engage tanky supports amazingly well, and also like Poppy is meta again, which is fantastic for Peanut. Azeka can play all the meta mid lanes extremely well, like Azir, Talia, Ari, even Silas if he has to pull it out, or Akali. Like I feel like they really benefit
when you
from
don't
all
say
of that,
Yone
you know?
and you're talking about Zeka, you really know that his champion pool is
Yeah,
improved.
exactly. Because he played the Yone today with the Sejuani, and then we were like, Wadi was freaking out. He's like, why did they let him have Yone and Sejuani? Both of them.
but also
Plus,
the
is a
best thing
creative
about
drafting
that-
team, creative drafting
Yeah.
team.
The best thing about that, though, is that Wolf and I were kind of caught off guard as well, because the things that were picked and the things that were banned made sense.
That's, yeah. It's just,
and then,
It's just this team is-
they're
crap.
too good. They have too much. Because
They have too
do
many
you really,
angles. There are
do
too
you
many
really
angles
feel
for them.
good if you go into, even with how good Shu has been playing, if you go into like a skill matchup against Zeus, and then you just imagine like if Jace gets 2 kills, you also don't get to play the game.
Yeah.
They're just really good.
Yeah. Next.
And it's kind of incredible that Gen Z are still
So
better
this
than them.
is what I wanted to talk about earlier. I
This
think
might be why Chronicler's hair is a little bit more mussed
it is
today. Let's just say that.
Must.
Must.
Yeah, mussed up,
Is
Isn't
it
that a thing?
must?
Yeah.
No,
Isn't that a
must.
thing that they say? Must?
Must?
Yeah,
Is that
must.
not a thing?
I've never heard
I've
that
heard
before.
musty, but that's like
Yeah,
like
that was
mildewy.
my impression.
Well, it's
Isn't
also
that
a
what
little mildewy, yeah,
hairdressers
because he was
say,
sweating.
I wasn't sweating. I knew what was going to
I
happen.
thought that was what the hairstylists do. They're going to muss the hair up a little bit. You put the wax in, and then you give it that disheveled look, but it's on purpose.
Yeah,
I think
they
it's got dust as well.
Maybe they did
Perhaps a
only
little rust.
I took a
hairspray
shower
today.
yesterday.
Nice.
Didn't
Yeah.
smell today.
I think, unfortunately for DK, there has been one. Not even the drafts. It's more so. Although I do agree that the Pantheon today was too much, but I think a lot of those drafts would work if an individual member of the team was performing better.
Who's
and
that?
It breaks my heart, but it's Showmaker. I think he's been by a pretty substantial margin the worst performing member on the team, and I think it leads to so many drafts where, in theory, because I can see the logic behind the Pantheon, right? Because you should be able to beat the Jace early, because you're one of the
It was
strongest.
Yone, right?
Sorry, the Yone,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Because you're one of the strongest melee characters early on. Like, obviously, you get outskilled, and then you make an impact on the map. But it's this Showmaker classic where his laning isn't where it used to be, and he picks like an aggressive pick. Like the Vex, we saw the same thing, and then he falls behind like 1,000 gold within the first 15, 20 minutes, and he doesn't get anything else done.
Yeah.
He could have played Quirky instead, which
Yeah.
I think would have been the better
Yeah.
choice.
I think it's fine to also criticize their drafting, but for me, the drafting is a symptom. I think a lot of the drafts would look better if the mid lane was played out better, because I think that outside of that, the team has actually been shockingly consistent, both in negative ways as well.
The
But
game one performance from them, of course, to contextualize for those watching, we're talking about the D plus Hanwha series
Yeah.
that just happened here on Sunday. The game one was like the insane level of measuredness. Like Atlus and I were calling it like the chess game that the teams were playing.
And Showmaker was playing really well in that
that
game.
is Azir. Yeah, that Azir performance.
I
was
also
great.
feel like that's Showmaker's problem. He runs out. The batteries run dry far too early.
because both other games, losing that hard as Victor into Talia as well.
Yeah.
Like, well, not losing, but having such a muted
Neutralized, yeah.
performance
Yeah.
and just being completely outplayed and outpaced on the map is really rough.
And for the game to go that late, and he still just basically did nothing.
I mean, he had a really aggressive performance on the Azir. Like, it was flashing for kills. You know, he went for the aggressive build where he went like Nashor's Tooth, lethal tempo, and he was doing a ton of damage. And it was cool to see. And I personally felt, and I mentioned this on the broadcast, that D Plus learned a lot from T1's really measured play when they lost to T1, where T1 was like, I'm a little bit ahead, well, we don't have to go further than that. We're just going to be oppressive. We're going to play around vision. And I think D+ kind of channeled a little bit of that. Whereas often D+ kind of go, we're a little bit ahead, better, send it until we win. And then Showmaker buys much eyes. And like they don't lose usually when they do that. But like sometimes it backfires. And I liked seeing that measured version of D+. But then there are other two drafts, like in game 2, they weren't allowed to be like that. And they tried to force stuff and hands check Hanwha. And Hanwha was like, nice try. Like Hanwha played that game 2 so well because they were just like, yeah, you have to do this, and we don't have to be there. So we're
And
just
they also
not
like
do it.
we've seen these drafts from Hanwha before. The Jax, Sedge, Yone, that is the wheelhouse. That's where they live. They don't lose with a draft like that. Not ever.
Bot lane could be anything.
Yeah.
Be Teemo and Singe,
I
and they
mean-
would still win.
Honestly, sounds pretty poisonous.
Yeah, it sounds
I'm
like
into
good
it.
bot
That's a
lane,
Britney
honestly.
Spears
Bring the
bot lane.
Timo Cassiopeia. They could do it.
Yeah.
But that again, I think at that game they were always going to lose. But it's more so the way in which it happens, right? Where if you don't see your like compare it to Owner's Pantheon game, and obviously he's playing jungle, but even then, that's what you need.
Yeah, you
to
can see what the champion's capable of.
And then-
And I was right there with you because like, and I maybe it's just my boomer brain, right? Because I've been watching Pantheon my entire career, and I know Pantheon exists until level 7, and then ceases to exist. That's sort of like my headcanon for how this champion works, and that was always the way. Obviously, like the way that you play it is a little bit different. It used to be you just throw sticks constantly, kind of like Kassadin. where, like,
pointing
just
just like
point,
cute,
good old
yeah.
point and click, baby. That's what I needed. I don't have hands anymore, and they're like making champions harder. It's so unfair. But he still functions the same way, basically, right? It's just now you need to aim a Q. And you've got the weird shield and stuff like that. But you still have a targeted stun. You still jump onto them. You just can't tank the turret shots.
I do think that like Hanwha's a really good team, and so some of the draft
Yeah.
weaknesses I think are more exposed and more prolific when you see it in a series like that. Maybe they would have been able to get away with that against BNK or DNF or Bro or whatever. But I think that we still have to criticize them for like the peak teams, right? Because they are like currently in the 3rd place spot. So comparing what their issues are compared to Hanwha and Genji means that Hanwha and Genji's drafts are better than theirs for that level of play. And maybe D+ got a little bit cocky, a little bit comfortable with like winning with these kind of wonky comps against other teams. Oh, we lost the Cho'Gath game to BNK, but whatever, we don't care. We're going to keep drafting like this. We're going to keep playing our own way. I want to see a little bit more evolution. I want to see a little bit more consistency there because we are talking about teams that could go to MSI, teams that could go to Worlds later on, that
Or
could
to
potentially
Busan.
go through playoffs and win LCK if they can fix these problems in
Yeah.
Busan, as you say.
Busan. One thing I want to say about DK is I've been very pleasantly, not surprised, but like just happy to watch that their 2 rookies are just now the 2 most consistent players on their team, have shown incredible growth. Like Lucid at first was flippy, but now he's the most reliable, I feel like, on the team. And now Shiyu as well in the top lane is another guy who is very reliable, rarely loses lane, oftentimes can carry as well, like we saw in his Ambessa, was insane, like finding crazy angles, winning lane against the Rumble as well, just like, and that's against Zeus, right? And he doesn't seem scared anymore, even though he's in person somewhat meek, and you know he's not going to have like the greatest interviews, but so is Pays, right? So
Oh, God.
he's kind of
Pays
down
interviews.
he's down that lane where he's like super pro gamer status, but he shows a lot of focus, and he's really good at just not being scared of anyone, including Zeus. So I think that as long as everybody else can get on their page, which is weird to say because they're the 2 youngest and newest members to the roster, I think they should be a really, really strong team that can take some of those series off of Hanwha Life Esports, and even Genji, right, where they did the same thing against Genji. They won game 1 and then lost the next 2. Aiming and Barrel, they're still, like, they're the veterans. They're reliable in their own way, but it just feels like the X factor kind of comes from the top 2 guys on the map, and then Showmaker's kind of like, you never know what you're going to get. Like, game 1, he's great.
Yeah.
And then he's like, I don't want to play anymore. I'm just
My
going to play
only-
Pantheon. Like, it's
Yeah.
weird.
My only argument is that I don't think you're giving aiming enough credit.
That's
I
aiming
think,
has
I
actually
think
been
aiming
crazy.
has
That's
been
fair, yeah.
extremely consistent, and I like only for the argument of consistency, right? Because
Yeah.
aiming is like even today in the game that they were losing, that MF performance where he like puts his bloodthirst to the test and just withdraws 3 people one after the other.
Then he also like got hit by a Jin W without flashing.
At
and,
that
like,
point, he was an MF playing into a fed Sejuani Yone Jax.
No, this
sort
was
of
the
situation.
Wukong. It was the.
Sorry, yeah,
It doesn't
the
really,
Wukong.
but it doesn't matter.
It's fed
He
Wukong,
just,
Jin, Talia.
I mean, Lucy's
Which
not
just-
perfect either, right?
yeah,
It's
yeah.
just
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
it was a tough game. It was a hard game it was a close one.
It's also again, it's against Hanwha. I think DK are very firmly our third place team until Showmaker's form changes. I think that they will stay there because Zeka and Chovy both are just going to completely neuter this team in the fights. But even despite that, I think they're fun to watch, even though they do fall into some of the same patterns, right? And we'll have to see. I could see Nongshim beat them, given the performance on the day. But for me,
I could see DNF beat them.
No.
That's our first match next week, I think.
It is. Yeah, it's the
DK
final match.
Nongshim.
It's the final match for fourth place.
That's actually a huge one. We've got some big matchups next
Oh,
week.
But we have we were going over it on the space. It took us 5 minutes because it's this one is amazing, that one's amazing, and we have 2 LCK road shows, and there's also there's a telecom war as well, which could be interesting now. It's a crazy week.
Why is it that
Genji DK.
when we get to the center of the middle of the season, the telecom war always hits a point where it could be
It's
good?
not only that, it's
You know?
also, remember last year when the odds were way worse for the telecom war, and it was the
road show?
stand, the road show,
And then
and then it was both KT challengers, and which KT challengers should have won, but then the fact that actual KT won was very funny.
just ludicrous stuff. But
Pioshik.
When Pioshik was still a jungler in the LCK, that was cool.
Yeah.
we may not make it to the bottom.
We did not finish the list.
Let's go to the next,
Stopped
let's
at
go to
9.
the next part.
Yeah, this is actually a fun one, and it's a good segue, right? Because that's going to be that next matchup that you were talking about against Nongshim, and the fact that we're talking about Nongshim versus DK as being a hyper-competitive, super important one for the standings, this is going to break the tie, right? Because they have exactly the same scoreline coming out of this week, and it'll be their first match, of course, because we're rounding out the round robin, and we will decide which team is in third place.
They also both lost to just like Genji Hanwha T1, right?
Yep.
So they lost against the same teams as well, basically even. They're also, I think, not in the same way, but just as funny as DK. Like when I was in Nongshim Day, you're like, I wonder what's going to happen today.
And also the downside is so similar, right? Because we are so used to leaning on Showmaker, like this is the main character of the team. We're so used to leaning on Jiwoo, this is the main character of the team. And now they're the only ones letting them down, actually.
I don't know about only ones, but definitely the
Well,
main
like they're
ones.
the main ones that you're
The
looking at and
limiter.
criticizing.
Yeah.
And I don't want you guys to think of that as a negative. I actually think that's a phenomenally good thing because we know that Jiwoo can turn it around. This guy is a phenomenal young player, has a great mind for the game. Same can be said for Showmaker, even though he's far more veteran in the LCK. These teams are they have the possibility of just getting better as the year goes on. I have to say they have the possibility because it's DK, and we don't necessarily know.
I'm not really confident about Calyx yet. I think it's still too early.
That's a good point.
I'm not ready
That's a good
to. I think he has looked great so far. I think we can all say that's basically a fact at this point.
Yeah.
I don't think you can really
feel
take
like
the
I'm giving a
opinion
bit
he's not.
too much credit
But
to
I
something
do
that is
think
untested.
I do think there's a little bit more we need to see, and he's definitely looking way better than his debut, obviously. So that improvement is really important because he wasn't confident. His landing was a little bit weak. I think he was very nervous, frankly, because it didn't look as good as he did in Challengers in LCK, which happens to a lot of players, as Chronicler can attest. But
I would never say that.
I think that's what I'm a little bit apprehensive about for Nongshim, because Showmaker, even at his worst, is kind of a proven quantity. And if we're comparing these two, of course, and I think Calyx, if he plays like this for 3 more weeks, then I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm down to be a believer. Gideon has been the guy I've been most about. Kingen and Gideon have had so many good games. It's like top jungle isn't usually your win con, but for this team, it so often can be.
Oh, Kingen is just full main character for this team. It is absolutely absurd.
He's been paying, and then we always go back to Dan, but so many of his other things have actually worked out amazingly.
Yeah, no, the Diana that doesn't exist. We've
Well, it did.
I've
It
just
didn't
erased it. I've erased
Okay.
it.
It's
It
not
hasn't
real?
happened.
Okay.
Yeah. And
Let
honestly,
the Diana die.
yeah,
They did.
Anna,
A lot.
Yeah.
Lane for lane, though, when I'm thinking about the form of the teams right now, I'm leaning a lot more DK than I thought I was going to, because I think Showmaker against Calyx isn't going to struggle.
But she might be able to be the.
I think she would
enough
be
to
fine
take Kingen
against
to,
Kingen, and then aiming is miles ahead of
Yeah. They kind of went everywhere, and
Gio right now. But I don't know.
there's
Nongshim could still win.
Downside, really.
It's interesting because I think that Nongshim, that power of friendship, that the Nongshim teams have just had for the last few years.
Except 2022. We forget
That's
about
what I'm
that
saying.
one.
Few does
They
not
had-
include
2021
2022.
was also a great friendship. There was Peanut and Gory and Kellen and Dokdam.
I think they probably had a lot of fun. They didn't do a lot of winning.
No, they got like Peanut got MVP that split. I remember because it was
Oh my
so
God.
weird.
Yeah.
And they got
wait,
fourth.
yeah, they had that wacky Gory game where he was like
Yeah.
hard carrying, and then he like flew
I
off to
actually
the
remember.
LPL.
I
and
like.
it's just not great.
I ended up voting like Gory for MVP that season. I think. I was
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
getting unhinged. I was like, this guy's actually beaten Showmaker in lane too many times in a row. Like,
Yeah, there was.
Yeah, I think I
Nongshim
might
has
have
just been
some outcome-focused assessment.
That's
of,
fine.
of
a
what
lot
happened
of
that
great
year.
years, and they do have that energy of a team where you're like, they can punch up. They don't often do it, but you believe that they can.
Yeah, and then things went dark for a year, and then we brought it back after the team won Challenger, and then they just said, "All right, that'll do."
It did not do.
They promoted to the LCK.
They did.
Yeah.
Finally,
We don't have promotions.
Yeah,
so,
relegations and promotions existing once
I feel
again.
like, yeah, I'm big on Gideon, and I feel like if Calyx can get really solid, then this team is going to be a powerhouse for sure. Like, Dew will eventually come online when you need him
Please.
most. But like, the top jungle is just so strong. I feel like Kingen, I'm still, I don't know. Like, he was able to win Nidalee versus Jace. I forget who was playing the Jace though. I feel like it was a matchup they were
wanna say
supposed
it
to
was
win
Claire.
anyway. Yeah. It's like one of those
Yeah,
matchups where
yeah.
I feel like it might be fake, you know?
it
where
sounded,
he comes out
it was pretty fake. I think. Yeah.
where it comes out as like he looks like a god, but also he's not playing against very good competition. But I do like that he's willing to say, no, I'm going to play that style. Like, I'm going to be the carry jungler. I'm going to be like Zeus. I'm good enough. And we have seen his high highs have been close, although I don't think he's really won many lanes against some of the best in the top lane. But I feel like as long as he's on form and Gideon's playing really well, and Calyx, he does have high highs now that he's gotten a bit
I
more
think the
comfortable.
Calyx Showmaker matchup is what this whole series hinges
Yeah.
on.
Pretty much, yeah.
And if he's like actually the good version of Calyx that we saw in their most recent matches, which was unbelievable, or whether it's going to be like Showmaker just locking in and saying this young guy is just not ready.
Does
to beat me
Showmaker
yet."
lock in game one and have the game one Showmaker performance, and then does Calyx like break and then fall
Yeah.
out of form into game two? Like, we don't know, but I do think that's probably the crux of it. And I'm not worried about Gideon in that
No,
matchup.
Gideon's just being good.
And I also wonder if Shiu is going to be able to play the same sort of like interesting drafts that Kingen has. So like, I would definitely favor D+ coming into this because I trust Showmaker more than Calyx
who
right
has
now.
blue side in the matchup? It's an interesting question.
I
I
think
think
it's
it's DK.
I think it's DK, but I'm not sure.
That makes things a little harder for Longshim, I think.
I think DK win game one no matter what, and then we'll see what happens. I don't think the sides are like.
You've never said this before.
Yeah. That was all true.
Yeah, we'll just
So,
have to see. And now,
B&K.
oh god, oh
I'm
god.
joking. They're sixth.
You know, we have really interesting parity in our standings where it's like 8-0 to 08, 7-1 to 1-7, 2-5-3 to 2, 3-5s,
Oh, look at that.
4-4 to
That's
4-4.
crazy.
Only the
That's
game
quite
scores
unusual.
don't.
Kind of a
Yeah, game
balanced
score is not
league.
perfect, but
It's
the,
close.
The
Yeah.
win-loss.
Damn, that's actually insane.
That's cool.
I don't remember
So,
the last time.
T1?
Because like we're towards the end of round one. Yeah, let's do it. Let's finally get to it. T1 just lost to Bro. That's
After
the
they
context of today.
They also lost to B&K.
They did lose to B&K.
That was a little while ago, though.
in the middle
Last
there.
week?
They
They beat
did.
D+,
They beat
in the middle.
Did beat D+. That is something that
that
we
did
do have to
happen.
say. But almost all of the series that T1 have played have been incredibly close. Like, it doesn't matter who they're playing against, they will be playing for the maximum amount of time, and they will stress out their fans as much as is humanly possible before maybe winning or maybe losing. And unfortunately, more recently it has been ebbing towards the losing side of things.
In the very most recent, yeah.
Yeah. Apart from the defense.
So the best series that they played was a series against Genji,
Yep.
which was extremely close, extremely competitive. They got stomped by Hanwha. They beat DK off the back of the owner heroics, the crazy sleep that
From
he
that
had.
sleep, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And then they beat Nongshim, but lost to Bro and B&K.
I think that this might be like a take that sounds kind of like a cop-out, but I think T1's players are under a lot of pressure, and so some of these lower Well, I mean, not that part of it. Not that part of it.
Really?
Not that part of it. Obviously, that much I think anyone can know. I don't think anyone will think that's a cop out. But I think that when they match up against these teams where they seem to be favored, where they arguably should be favored, like BNK, Bro, they don't prepare for the matches as much. It feels like there's a little bit more like putting the fires out in the team and trying to figure out and solve like roster issues and what sort of drafting they're going to look to do, rather than like the players being super honed in on what's going to happen. Because I felt like against Bro, especially in that last game, they kind of phoned it in. Like they were like, "Oh, we win this fight," and Bro's like, "What do you? Your positioning is bad." Like owner's like, "I get this dragon. We have no prio, but it'll be no." They kill you there actually, and like there's some moments like that with T1 where you're like, "Why are you fighting?" So like the classic Faker gets caught, but then they just win the team fight. Everyone rotates over. But it's like, no, it's not just one guy killing Faker. It's like the whole team is there, and you guys are like, "Oh, we just force this fight. We always win these," and then you don't win those, and then the game falls away from you. I feel like if T1 played a little bit more respectfully against Bro, they probably would have won. I think they still were the better team. Like I think people who are over analyzing this game or being a little bit exaggeratory about what the result means are like, does that mean T1 is worse than Bro? I'm like, well, on the day, yeah, they were. But I do think that T1's best, which we aren't consistently seeing, is still better than Bro. I still think they're going to be a legend team. I don't think this team is going to collapse right now, but there needs to be a little bit more respect shown. I think T1 phoned it in hard, and like we've said so many times this season, any LCK team can beat any other LCK team who isn't on their best, who isn't playing well, who isn't playing respectfully, who's playing greedy. Like, you will be punished by even DNF. It hasn't happened yet, but, like, they could.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of parallels that you can draw, and this might be obvious to some people, considering the fact that they swap top laners, between Hummer Life Esports and T1. And what we're seeing on the Hummer Life Esports side is being able to recalibrate extraordinarily quickly to a playstyle that actually utilizes Zeus' strengths. And what it's done, what it's meant, is that Viper has to be so much more muted, right? We're seeing him play so much Jhin. Like these are champions that he's been very good at, but the style he has to play isn't, you're the main character, do all the damage. He is instead, I'm going to sit back, I'm going to like facilitate these mega carries that I have in my solo lanes, because too many chefs does not make for a good kitchen.
They figured it out.
Yeah, and they figured it out very, very quickly. The same task was given to T1 this year. And teams have been able to make Doran drafts and Doran teams work very effectively, especially domestically, right? Like we've seen him on Gen G do fantastic things, him on Hummer Life Esports. Last year, literally, they're the LCK defending champions, right?
He's won, isn't it 4 out of 5 of the last LCK championships?
Yeah. And T1, they know very, very closely how he managed to do that, because they were on the receiving end of it for the majority of the times, right? And what T1 hasn't been able to do yet is understand how to best utilize what the strengths are of weak side top lane. Even though they have done it in the past, in other iterations of the team, they just haven't been able to make the bottom lane fit in with this top side.
I also just think they're playing really badly. Like, I think the form of the play, and I think a lot
but
of
I think like a lot of that stems from not being able to understand
think
how
both
the
are
team
true.
works.
I actually think both are true,
yeah.
though.
Yeah.
Well, so to me, the reasoning why is really interesting, and even we, who obviously get a lot of info just through being close to being in Lore Park, right?
Yeah.
Leaks in the PogState?
Sorry?
Leaks
not
in the PogState?
We're not talking about leaks. What I'm
Secret
saying is, even then,
information?
I wouldn't really feel like we have nearly enough knowledge to know everything.
Yeah,
that's
this
going-
is speculation.
Well,
Hey.
but it's very, very obvious, even from the outside. You don't need any internal knowledge to know that right now, no one in this team is going to be put in a good position to perform because of all the external circumstances. And that alone would be enough for a team to implode. But then add to top, as you're saying, they also need to completely recalibrate how they have been playing for the last 4 years. Don't forget, ever since the tail end of 2021, they were still playing with Kana, but the rest of the lineup has been the same since.
And Kana's style is, you must give me resources
It's the same
anyway, right?
It's just it's obviously not like Zeus is the best top laner in the world. If he ends up having another great run this year, might be the best top laner of all time.
Yeah.
He's already contending for that title pretty substantially. So that was always going to be tough. What for me is worrying is that this might all be to we've had this exact talk so many times, right?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, T1, there's drama with the fans, internal drama. The coaching staff is fighting with everyone, and then they end up winning a lot over the last couple of years. But I do think that this is the fact that it's literally only owner. Faker was there for like a couple of series, but I feel like now he's also dropped off again.
The series against Bro was not Faker's best.
Yeah.
He was gapped by Closer hard.
Yeah.
I mean, like I'll say the words out loud. Like,
Yeah.
He lost lane. every
Closer
single
also
game.
had a phenomenal series, and we need to give him
And
a
he has
majority of the credit,
he has
but
been the
yeah.
number one bro, right? So like I think that and Closer has always, even going back to, which is the reason why
They
he
do
was
know
on
each
T1.
other relatively well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But for me, like, I think that regardless of who you feel like should be playing, I think that Doran is heavily underperforming. I like the Doran that we see now.
But he won the Gwen versus Ambessa matchup.
Yeah,
Do you see that? He
he did.
solo killed.
Oh,
he
yeah.
did.
And when him and Morgan were playing Don't Play Jace Chicken, and neither of them played it the entire series.
You don't
Best,
you guys
best
don't
top
even,
laner.
I bet
on the
you. I
patch.
bet you'll lock it in. I bet you'll lock it in if I don't lock it.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And they
I-
just neither of them played it for 3 games.
No, and then
It's like
Have,
it was,
have
it
you
wasn't even
seen them
banned.
play it in other games?
so. Yeah,
Yeah,
well, I
well-
know Doran plays it. Like Morgan, we know that he doesn't, and for Morgan, I think it feels a lot more excusable because Morgan is a team player on Bro. For Doran, though, I think it's very telling that he doesn't perform on champions he used to be good on. Things like, why isn't he confident to bring out his Jax, for example, which is a champion that historically he's always been really good
Yeah.
at. Then there's the fact that, which obviously for even more obvious circumstances, both Guma and Smash look atrocious in their recent performances.
You know who's also struggling a lot is Keria. Who
Yeah.
just looks like, it almost looks like, you know, when you mentioned phoning it in, it almost felt like, and I'm a big Keria fan for all of you who don't know.
Yeah.
It almost feels like he's doing it the most, and I don't blame him at all because it's just kind of like
How can you perform?
It's like a merry-go-round of 80 carries. He's like, oh, I guess I'm playing with Smash today. Well, we got to scrim like a couple of times yesterday. Like he must be tilted out of his mind. Maybe not as much as the 80 carries, but like probably right next to him.
Well,
like,
They're
it
losing
affects
2v2s.
80 carry
Yeah.
and support
I
go
think
hand in hand, and
it's-
he can't handle that.
It's the bottom 2v2 lanes where I think Carrier struggled the most. I think outside of lane, he's had some really big moments for sure. He has had some less good moments, but like when you really zoom in on, I think some of the biggest struggles,
Yeah,
it's been
Carrier
like he
plays
and
every
Guma
scrim
together.
with the top side of the map. Doesn't play every scrim with who he's with on the bottom side.
Yeah.
So maybe that's. But the thing is, like, Guma and Carrier have been playing together for a really long time, and the fact that it is getting to that duo is
They
the
are-
biggest problem.
they are
Because
losing
look-
2v2s.
Yeah, and they are looking the most uncoordinated out of all of it. And
They were the most oppressive 2v2 we
Yeah,
had.
they
for
were
They
the
won
the
2
top
world
years.
championships.
Yeah.
playing through oppressive 2v2s, right? Like,
I think just the entire team is outside of Owner, who's just extremely chill and just playing his game and
I mean, he's
having a
just
great
really
time.
good.
He just
Yeah.
seems very detached from it all. He's kind of like, whatever. Like I'm just gonna play really well. And
He is the
everybody else
sickest
is
firefighter.
yeah, everybody else is extreme mental boom.
yeah. Well, there could be a world, right? Or there most likely is a world where midsummer they pull it together. They're really good again. Doran plays his champions. Maybe there's a meta shift that ends up benefiting them. You would be silly to count this team out, but I do think the whole right now is pretty.
yeah,
Is
So we're in the
pretty
part of
deep.
the arc where we're worried about T1, right? Like,
Yeah.
and that's for me. Like,
the yearly position.
It's what like the fourth
Yeah.
time in a row where we're concerned.
But normally it's in summer.
Yeah,
That is a big. I
although
think
to
that
be
is a big
fair, like
difference.
this is normally like where we're in MSI during the year,
Yeah.
so it's a little bit later in the year. They played a lot of
Actually,
games. and
yeah.
stuff.
Last year they were good in
We've
spring.
only got one season, right? So you
At
just
MS
have to start it all early.
Yeah, at MSI they were also not that.
I've-
They were third, but relative to
Yeah.
where they were in spring, not
I've
that
seen
great.
T1 play from behind and make incredible calls. Like their series against D Plus was so good, right? Like they looked so good in that game. Like fundamentally, team fight wise, shot calling, everything looked really on point there. So you know it's still in them. Like you know that it's
Yeah.
like the difference between that series and the Bro series is such a big chasm that I feel like they phoned in the Bro series. You know what I mean? That's why I still feel like T1 are going to be fine. And as long as things don't get worse, as long as there's not some other crazy drama that happens, or there's some or like Smash and Guma keep getting rotated in like every other week or something like that, which I don't think is going to happen. Koma's made it pretty clear that he's like, Guma is the guy now. You should know that for the time being. That is the expectation. That's what you should expect. Which is a weird statement to make, but like he said it, and I think that we can expect that that's probably going to be the case for now because Smash seems to be going through some stuff. So like I'm ready to think that this is just a temporary setback. Like that's kind of where I'm at because I've seen this so many times. I saw Faker's wrist injury. I saw Faker go out for Poby. I saw this team go middle of the pack just like they are right now. and then win a world championship. I saw him do it twice. You know what I mean? Like, I think
I saw Zeus do
They
that
did
as well.
well. That's the only thing that I think we all agree.
I'm not
on.
saying they're winning worlds, but I
No,
don't
no.
think this team is going to drop like to 7th or 8th place. Like I
No,
think it's
no, no.
unrealistic to expect that right now,
No, I'm
given the
with
caliber
you.
of these players and the best parts we've already seen.
There is also a silver lining. Owner for MVP. Let's go.
Yeah.
Lock it in. You got it, buddy.
I'm ready.
They are pretty lucky they have the best jungler in the LCK at the moment.
He has been. I'm as a
You've been a bit of a fan of this guy for some time, I think.
Yeah. And now we're finally getting to see that he's just good.
Mm-hmm.
It's nice. It's good. I like it. It makes me happy. T1, I'm sure they'll bounce back, but I do think that unless they actually figure out a situation where either Owner, Faker, or Smash or Guma becomes a consistent carry, they will be hard capped.
Yeah.
Because Zeus is one of the best players in the world, and losing him is going to be, or was always going to be, a really
They have
big
to
issue.
evolve. They have to evolve.
Yeah.
T1 has struggled to evolve, but they made what they were so good at work so well across so many metas that it didn't matter, but now it matters. Right now, we have to see the evolution.
And I don't want to be misconstrued, right? Because I feel like I was
On the internet?
Yeah, I was kind of like throwing some shade, I guess. But what I'm saying is that there is absolute hope for this team to be world class with the tools that they have at their disposal. They just need to figure out how to use them correctly. We often talk about this, and I kind of hate putting pressure on T1 as an org, right? Because this is what all of our teams do. We do this, like, Pleta literally just came in, subbed in for Andal for 2 weeks in a row.
And now Andal's playing again.
And now
supposedly.
Andal's playing again, and he's fine. Like, this is okay. And do you know what DRX did about it? Nothing. They just subbed him in. Because that's what you can do. It's the LCK. You're allowed to do that. We have players that get
Duck Tom
subbed.
and Poduk
Yeah.
situation going on?
Yeah,
In the
and-
exact same role?
Hey.
What did the KT fans do? They drew little roller coasters and went, "Wee! I'm having fun!" Like that's what the response
That's what
was.
sports teams do. They make roster choices.
Yeah,
What's happening here is they're also drawing attention from everyone's talking about Zeus versus Doran, right? But what about the fact that KT let Hype and Humbug go? That's what I want to talk about.
Oh God!
yeah, that's what I want to talk about.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's...
We keep getting caught
Bros
up.
with the heist, baby! Hell yeah!
We have to do B&K first, though, because they are sixth.
Yeah.
They're pretty good.
They're a pretty good team.
They're pretty good.
On their
Vikla
best
is way
days.
better than he yeah, well...
Why is Vikla not bad?
Well,
Well, he slept well that one day. Remember?
He was
Ryu
ba-
said?
Oh yeah, Ryu did say
Ryu
that.
said,
You're
"Oh, he slept
such
well
a
today."
Ryu anti. Dude.
I mean, that's just a stupid thing to say. Like, it doesn't
oh, he got booed by Valdes!
doesn't help at all. Like, I don't know. Also, it's also like
Dying.
you're like preparing for a match that's very important, and it's like, let me just talk about one player. And
Chronicles
like,
I gave him
looking
a
at the
chocolate
camera,
cookie
like,
before the
this
game. I gave him a chocolate
This
chip
is it.
cookie and he was
Valdes-
good to
Valdes
go.
I mean,
saying-
that's not.
That was
yeah.
a stupid statement. That's
That just
PogState
doesn't.
gold.
Yeah.
I got him a
We-
Tempur-Pedic bed. That's
so-
why he's good now.
It's like
Have
the
you
monkey's
not
paw.
like read any of the other
because-
coaches' comments?
Well, that's what I was about to say. It's the monkey's paw because we're like, oh, we really want to hear more from the coaches. They always say we're going to do our best. Like, this is an important match. And then he says something a little bit more, and I'm like, that was so dumb. Why did you say that? Well, it's better than saying we're going to have a good match.
I thought it was cute and endearing. I still don't think
I
Vikla
liked
is very good. I think Raptor's great. You know,
I think
Diablo
Clear
and
is
Kellen are
actually
good.
finally having some good games in the
Yeah.
LCK. That's good.
I'm not as high on Diablo as the rest of you guys are. I think
I've
maybe
come around
I
personally.
think I have what Max has for Bull
yeah,
for
fair.
Diablo, where it's like I saw him
You
play
can't see past the rage.
so many challenger league games where he was playing like I forget what it was. There was one champion he would always
Seri.
play. No, it was Lucian, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
It
yes,
was
yeah,
Lucian.
yeah.
He would always play it and just look horrendous. And I
Okay,
was
but-
like, okay, this guy doesn't even belong in challenger
But his
league.
team was
But
not very good.
they weren't very good, but I thought he individually also wasn't. But now, like, he's come up and he's had some big moments. And the big one for me that I always go back to was when he had the quadra kill against DK and everybody was, like, losing their minds. I'm like, DK literally ran in a straight line, like lemmings, into a Callista. You know,
Yeah,
like...
didn't you just Ren set 3 people?
Yeah.
yeah.
That was
and
fun.
sure, like, he had the wherewithal to, like, make it happen, whatever. And I think he has the skills, but I also think he's very untested, and I'm not willing to jump on that hype train yet.
For
I'm
me,
still
it
reserved
was-
for Diablo.
For me, it was the T1 series that really put it over the line.
And
Like
the Gen
his
G.
Varus, where he's just like, "No, you all die now," and he like
Well,
flash
he's got
kills
that-
Carrier after just destroying Gumayushi. Like,
He's got that young player like
yeah,
drive,
the killer
where like
instinct.
I'm just gonna.
But
kill
also
him,
the
you know?
way he moves his champion is deadly. It's like it's scary to watch him like pilot.
Sometimes the
like,
flash direction he takes, you're like, whoa, I don't know about that. And then
he
then
only
it
arcane
was
shifts
actually
forward.
correct.
Like he is actually a psychopath, but he plays like it is surgical the way that he plays the game. Like those hands be good. Like,
I'm
and
excited for
that's
Diablo
scary.
in 2 years. Right now, I feel like he's extremely flippy.
Yeah, of course.
And-
yeah, for sure.
And I think like you don't just because you're young doesn't mean you have to be flippy. You
Yeah.
know, if you're an
And
80
now-
carry, you're
now I
probably
totally
supposed to not
understand-
be flippy.
I'm so glad that you brought up that's like how you feel about Bullthing, because now I completely get how you're feeling. You're like, no, this is not going to last,
It's just
guys.
stuck in my brain where I'm like, I saw too many games where he just fell
Yeah,
flat
yeah.
on his
Any
face.
fountain dives?
Yeah. About
did happen, yeah.
That did happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think B&K, I don't think they're quite legend
I think Kellen
caliber.
is definitely looking better than last year, though.
Well, it's not.
I think
No,
Kellen
it's
is
not a
definitely
big
looking
step
better
up,
than 3
is
weeks
it?
ago.
Clear's slowly getting better.
No,
He
Clear's
looked really
actually-
rough, like super
Raptor-
rough in LCK Cup, but now he's getting good.
Raptor kind
He's
of
coming back.
Remember at the start of
does
the year where
alright.
we were like, B&K is just a combination of 5 bad players. that's
we actually
literally
did
what we
think
thought.
there was.
Yeah, we
I
thought they were gonna
actually
be
thought right now where B&K or where DNF is, I thought that was going to be B&K.
Yeah.
Like I
No,
legit
most
thought
of
that
us
was
did.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. We
bounced
thought they'd be
back well.
brain
So-
boom to start the whole thing off and then never recover.
Props to Ryu
And
and
the
the
gang.
coaching staff
Yeah.
and Joker and everyone for turning everything around.
And now Ryu
including
does
the players.
draft well
And-
sometimes.
He does.
Yeah.
You know, that's getting better too.
His
That was
first day
actually
on the
my biggest
patch
issue.
was not great.
That was always my biggest issue.
Oh,
with Ryu,
God.
was the drafting. But it's a team thing. You know, the players want to play what they want to play. I understand.
This is what I think. If everyone played according to plan, what we expected this team to be, I think this is where they'll stay around this area.
I think that this is like they're playing up further than what I was expecting at the very beginning of the year.
Yeah.
But probably about where I'd expect if we were to come in like after first stand.
Yeah.
You
Now-
know? So I
now-
think this is fine.
And I think this is where they're gonna be around this area. I think this is not one of the teams where you have expectations that they'll like really be able to punch up very far. But also think they're consistent enough now, which is weird because it's B&K
Yeah,
to kind
so
of hover
strange.
around this spot.
And I remember when we were doing our predictions like a couple of weeks ago, I had B&K here in 6th, and I just kept moving them down as I started to lose belief. And unfortunately, for me, they remained in 6th, and I was proven wrong. So I like that this young team is continuing to do good things. And now let's talk about KT.
50-50.
Yep.
Peter,
No,
Peter.
I feel like 30-70 actually.
Yeah.
30-70.
The memes
Based
don't
on where
hold
they
up.
are right now, Wolf's got a point.
Yeah, no, the memes don't hold up. They have made great subs. I think this team will slowly trend upwards throughout the rest of the year, and that's about it. I think they'll be 6th.
I think the casting perfect situation is. I'm
Yeah, they
just
don't really
sad
have a
about
top
it.
lane.
Yeah, I
I mean,
think that
casting is.
I think casting has been fine.
Yeah.
And I think that it's sad to me because I've seen higher highs from perfect, but I've also seen that I don't think that mental's ever going to be there.
No.
He doesn't have a main stage personality. He can't get past the nerves. So it has to be casting, and I don't know. I think casting is fine, but in my mind, he's kind of like a Hoya.
KT
you know?
don't know how to stomp.
Yeah.
Like he's got a hard
That's
cap. You know.
perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or Birdle, where you're
Yeah,
like, there was
yeah,
so
yeah.
much hype. Everyone was
so much
like,
hype for casting though?
for perfect, it was a good amount. Yeah, not for casting.
What?
Yeah,
we were
for
talking
casting
about
that was not. But we're just talking about
casting.
like where we see his potential being at, and there wasn't there was not a lot of hype, but it just
Yeah, I was
feel
was
like
talking
that's where
about
the
the
cap is.
mental for perfect specifically,
Yeah,
which is
yeah,
also
yeah,
because
yeah.
you know Hoya was like solo queue beast and never really.
yeah.
I think there's a reason to me why KT never has any stomp games where they never stomp. Like they get leads and then they kind of like flop and
As an
there's
organization,
no-
they have only ever played to their opponent.
But it's get lead, 25
There's
minutes
no,
of
yeah, this team has no quality traits like as a 5-man unit. They have BDD. No, I mean it's true though.
what
Like
was the meanest one? The Ryu comment or the this team has nothing
No
good at all?
quality traits.
like they have BDD and Cuz who are really good. And
So are they
That's a
like a
quality
white
trait.
sword that just has 3 to 5 damage and that's
What
it?
do you?
You know?
Is this coming from the number one BDD?
I'm the number one BDD fan, and I think BDD is very good, obviously, and I think BDD and Cuz are very good. When it looks to the 5-man units, I'm like, well,
BDD's good.
Cuz has had some good games, and like and BDD usually looks best when Cuz is also playing at his best. So like I think that's like
That's
it's
true.
a duo. It's a duo a little bit, and unless BDD is breaking his back, which happens sometimes. When it comes to like team fights, macro, vision, like objective control, like any sort of
Is this
synergy,
that
any sort of
meme?
appeal. I mean, it's practically the meme. I think KT just don't like. I actually think I put them 6th as well in my initial predictions. Right now, I think Bro is like a way better team. Like at this moment in time, I'm like, oh, Bro passes. I think
I agree.
KT. Like KT, I feel like they've moved too many parts around. I'm like, by the time this team is actually like a team that has some of the quality traits, they have some of the parts of the hexagon. Yes, let there be light on Wolf as the thing falls down, and I explain. By the time they get to that point,
It's spectacular.
I'm gonna finish the point, even though I'm like really bright or whatever.
Yeah. You're
By the
glowing.
time they actually become a real team, that maybe casting is finally like able to find some synergy. Maybe there's a little bit of teamwork that's happening. Maybe they play the map a little bit. Maybe they actually make some really strong decisions and threaten the right fights, do the right Baron turns. Everyone else is going to be like way further ahead. Like everyone else will have so much growth by then. I think this team is just like stuck in its weird
Stagnant
machinations of
quagmire.
swapping all these players and stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm super low on this team right now. I don't think that like every other team's had like the highs where you're like, oh, B&K, like maybe they're good. Like Bro, like beat T1, like that was really solid. Like look at how they played these objectives. Look at how they snowballed. With KT, you're like, they won the game because BDD just ran down mid and DRX forgot how to play the game. And you're like, I'm like, oh, they 2-0'd.
They beat Bro.
But you're like, did they
right?
really win? Or they
Yeah.
almost lost for some reason, but then they won accidentally. Like, that's
No.
how I feel about KT
Wolf,
right now.
I think this is you don't want to believe in because you're scared. Because you love KT and you want him.
I just don't trust. I just don't.
that's fine.
But I don't think it's gonna get better. Like,
think-
how does it get better? I don't think it's gonna get better until they make a new roster.
I think with the current lineup, I think they have 2 players that are way better than their counterparts on Brion, and I think that's top, and I think that's support. I think that both of those. I think, as I'm saying, I think Peter.
I mean, that's fair
and
just because
casting,
Paulo's
I think
really
Paulo
struggling
is-
right
I
now.
think Peter is the only success story on this team outside of BDD, who is still good, but Peter's like overperforming.
Yeah.
I think he's really, really fun.
Peter is the only one who actually got better. Like I'm saying.
Do you know what
Yeah.
would have been amazing if KT had any AD carry options outside of
Well,
Meltdown?
while I
That's
was
an
leading
issue.
into this, I actually think with how Cousin playing thus far, they should, which shockingly should have gone all in on Hype and Humbug.
Oh, 100%.
Because I think Hype has actually been.
That's why I don't like KT this season.
No, that's
is
valid.
Just because they made the dumbest roster
Now,
choice.
now you know how I have felt so many times for the last 3
Guys,
years.
I mean, hold on though. Like hype is fine, but it's not like hype fixes this team.
No.
either.
And I also don't
Remember what happened with Wei?
Yeah. Well, I
Who's
also,
Way?
Yeah. Oh, ooh, don't get me started about challengers.
Yeah, they kept the wrong half of that. Joke.
Well, that's and like I don't know. I don't rate Hype that highly. He has really good games, but a lot of the games I do think he's a bit of a
He
liability.
played really well today.
Exactly, yeah.
In context, the
He's just a
Bro
little
versus
bit of a
T1 series.
passenger, I think.
Yeah.
Like, there are some times where he has some big oofs as well. So,
But I do think he would be more consistent. And I also think that with how Cuz has been playing thus far, unless he truly finds back his form, I think that actually the more I think about it, that 2024 DNF roster, it lingers. And it's lingering on anyone that was in it, and it's not good.
It did potentially teach him some bad habits of I must play for myself. I am alone.
Well, that's but we've seen
And-
players never recover from that, right? And for Cuz, I think that's too early now.
Oh, no.
But if
The
Hambach
echoes
keeps
of
trending
dread.
upwards like he has,
echoes of
well,
dread.
exactly.
Yeah.
And then if it's possible that Cuz never, because Cuz was in 2023, I think super underrated, right? When he was on that KT roster. Then last year, illegal that he was on the DNF roster that he was. But we've seen players like Rascal go through the same thing and just never bounce back.
yeah.
So I'd hope
Especially
that
to
isn't
our
the
veteran
case.
players, yeah.
Well,
I'm
'cause
worried
he's
about him.
Yeah, he's
I-
deep in his career.
I do think for KT, I think they're just super hard capped in top and 80 carry. And that's
Yeah,
not really a
that's fair.
fixable situation. Also, Peter's better, but he's also not. I mean, he's got to play with either Duck Dom, who has
you
so
have to
many
He's a support.
mistakes.
He's a support.
Yeah, you
like
have to
he's
use
a
the
support.
utensils
Yeah.
that you have, right?
And he doesn't have very many. I feel like BDD's, up and down, but he can't carry the team alone. Like, I don't know. He's good, but he also can't do it alone.
When I compare these two teams, especially like obviously a little bit of recency bias with Bros win over T1, but even some of their other games where they had a massive lead and they like almost won, but it fell apart here or there, or like there was a clutch fight or they messed something up. But like when Closer pops off, like BDD and Closer both are like pop off, insanely strong mid laners, best players on their team, right? Like I think we can agree that's true for both.
Yeah.
But when Closer makes a good play, Bro is there to follow up. Like when closer
Yeah.
makes an insane play, he sets up a wall. Like everyone does the right thing. When BD makes a play, he looks back and he's like, I don't know, I tried.
Yeah.
that's how I feel. Like that's the big difference between KT and Bro to me is like Bro actually makes sense. Like it's a 5-man unit. KT is a 2-man unit with like 3 moons orbiting or something.
Yeah.
And like Peter's a big moon, but he's still a moon. Like he has a little bit of a higher gravitational field than the other two because
you
he
seen
makes
his
a bigger
dad, though?
impact than casting,
Yeah.
and he makes a bigger impact than Duckdom, but like he's still a support, so he can't actually do all the things.
Giga Chat dad.
Peter belongs on Bro, actually.
Oh my
Peter belongs
god.
on
Yeah.
Bro. His dad is the Giga Chat.
He is
of
actually
Korea.
the Giga Chat.
Bro,
It is
bro
actually
Peter
true.
is honestly would be maybe
go so
the
hard.
most influential trade of all time
Wow.
as far as transfers
all
go.
What about trading?
all
What about Bulldog for
What about
Chovy?
What about Says Fedoran? T1 Chovy? No. I'm going Bro Peter.
Bro Peter?
Can you imagine Peter's dad just showing up with a Giga Chat sign at a
Yeah.
Bro game?
Honestly, for the for the memes, for the vibes, 100%.
That would be
Best
the
trade
best, yeah.
possible. Any other like all of the other criteria,
Don't
just really
don't,
forgettable.
don't think about it too much.
I am with you though. Like
Yeah,
I
yeah,
feel like
yeah.
if Peter was on Bro, I'm like, wow, this actually sounds pretty sick.
Yeah. Yeah. I
In
feel
terms of
that.
trade, I'm like, I
I-
don't know about, but like
I-
if Peter was on Bro, that's good.
I feel like KT have made worse trades with Bro.
Yeah.
That is
have.
happened.
Yeah,
Anyway, let's talk about DRX.
We didn't really talk about Bro.
Well,
All right.
think
Yeah,
we
let's
kinda-
talk-
we
I
talked
thought
about
we
the
were talking
context
both at the
versus
same
KT,
time.
I would-
but I've said all I have to say.
They also didn't draft Jace for Morgan. I feel like he's a big issue for them.
yeah, he's not.
I feel like the Lord is
How
really
dare you.
struggling. Yeah.
Valdes just being a bro anti.
Also,
over here. We're
They
all
can
kinda
just
getting a
ban
little hype.
Jace. It's fine.
I did hang out with Chronicler all day, so I think it's rubbed off a little bit. Bro anti.
You know what? That's just.
I think also Paulo is really struggling. I don't really know what's going on with him. Like he looked really good at times, but I don't know. Maybe it was just very occasional high highs. Like it doesn't seem like he's really in the zone.
But
But
the ult in the Dragon Pit was a
they're
little
mid jungle.
weird.
They're mid jungle. Fantastic. Big looks on Closer and Hambach, who Hambach started off kind of slow, but I am glad he's getting there. I always had
Remember-
faith in Hambach.
Can you imagine if they
But-
subbed him out for someone else instead of just letting him develop when he's clearly
Ellen?
getting better? What?
But
that-
really,
that would never
really
do
glad
that.
they invested in Croco for the second round robin as well. Isn't that important?
If
I'm-
Croco plays instead of Hambach, I'm going to be so pissed.
Me too.
I was.
I'm
I think
livid.
D Croco fan. I
Guys, I
can't.
think you're gonna be.
it's undefendable.
I think Croco's gonna be playing. I have a
Oh, no, I
feeling.
think Croco might play for 1 or 2 matches, and then we're going to be seeing our boy back again, and they're going to be like, "Wait, why did we?"
because I think Croco obviously 2020 free DRX Croco was
2022
one of
Live Sandbox.
no, don't you dare, was one of the worst junglers that I think we've had in the LCK in recent times. Like there were a lot of plays that were inexcusable. I know he was a lot better last year when he played with KL on I want to say AL in the LPL.
I think
But
that was
I
one.
still
anyone's legend. Yeah.
yeah, I still would never, ever like this. Like, I don't know why we're bringing him back for that team. I don't know why we're not putting Faven Hambach. I don't see it. And if that happens,
it's proven to work. They won Kesper Cup.
Grr.
Bro, I'm
Putting
all
the
saying
gur
is,
in
bro,
Edgar.
find some players on sale, man. They love a good sale.
I don't know, man.
Hype on budget, but KT is like, we're trying to get this other really high budget player, so we're kind of dangling this guy out here, and bro is like, I'm bidding right now. And then
in like
Croco's a free agent. I'm getting it. I better buy it now.
it's a 2-for-1 deal. You'd lose money not to take it.
For me, I've been watching a lot of the Matt Armstrong I'm gonna rebuild Porsches that I find in crash auctions. And maybe that's what it is. Like I see those auctions where
This
he's
is
like
way too
sitting on his
specific,
phone and
Max.
he's like, I managed to bid for this car, and then he finds out that actually it spent half its life underwater and now he has to rebuild it.
All
and
I'm
he thought
saying
it was a
is-
deal. It was $200K.
They have closer. One of the really strong east side mid laners, like possibly the strongest. I would actually go as far as to say, yeah, I'm pretty confident he is strong. Like I think he might even be better than Faker right now. You have this guy. I feel like if Fly suddenly makes an appearance, then I'd be like, "Yo, minimum salary, you in?
Yeah.
You want to come back? I saw your LFT. I saw your LFT on Twitter.
And we thought that that Morgan's spot on Bro is just guaranteed, but nah, Ixu Like just says like I've considered coming back. They're like, wait a second.
Yo,
Untara, you want to stop? You want to stop streaming?
Smeb, you getting a little tired of that weird content they're making with you all the time?
Hey, it's not weird. It's actually goaded. That is actually so sick.
I'm
the
not
stuff
ready
they
to
do
trust, bro. I think, as mentioned, support
wonder
and
why.
I'm not
top-
willing to trust. I think that the team,
I mean,
the players,
compared
and
to-
the coaching staff are fine. Whoever's making the roster decisions just needs to like.
compared to KT.
Yeah.
That's all. I think these two teams are quite similar, though. They're
Yeah.
basically.
So now that we've torn Bro down a little bit, let's talk about how they're
I mean,
way
their
better than the
jungle's
next two
great.
teams we're going to discuss.
Yes, we do need to make sure that the caveat is there because like I think that Bro has a lot of potential, and I think that this team is like
Not potential, man.
Yeah, no, but like, and I
no.
can
Chorus?
see. So from God, okay,
Bulldog.
from first until 8th, I can see how this team is supposed to work if it's going to work.
No, 9th. I think for DRX, I can see it. We did see
I
it.
used to see it.
I used to see
Yeah,
it.
I used to.
I- right now
did
we're-
see it. I do not see
Right?
it.
did
right
see
no,
it,
no,
but
no,
now
no.
I've
Right now
given
we
up.
don't see it,
Yeah.
but we did. And I think that is still more than 10.
Oh
true.
right, yes,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I just want to emphasize the gap between 8th and 9th, and then we can emphasize the gap between 9th and 10th.
No, that's
Yeah, like right now,
I'm with you. I'm with you.
We're like
Yeah.
Genji, we're like Hanwha, and then it gets like a little bit more like condensed over here until you get down to BNK and KT. They're like a little bit lower.
Yeah.
And then you and Bro, in
And,
my opinion,
and
is
now
up,
you
isn't
have
there?
to realize that we are on the 3rd floor of the building because the rest of the things exist in the
It's like
basement.
down with my scooter, like in B3.
I don't
and then DNF are like they're in the secret under B7.
Yeah. They're in the disco that's happening
I-
on B7. you
I
know?
don't think DRX are like they have like what 2 or 3 games that they lost just through seemingly disconnecting. I don't know why that wasn't. They didn't do anything with that.
There was no pause.
Yeah, it was really weird when they just
Strange.
all ran into mid lane to die for no reason.
Hmm.
I don't know, man. I
I don't know what happened to UCal. I'm really disappointed.
He
We were
was
all so
yeah, I
high on
think-
UCal. He was jumping out of his chair. He was doing ceremonies and stuff, celebrations, and now it's like he's totally disappeared. Like he wasn't the best player
Maybe
in the
that's
world.
what it is. Like in my
but he had
brain,
big
UCal has
pop-off
just
moments.
disappeared.
Yeah, and it's like he just lost his mojo or something.
I just think
Like,
he was
just
always-
totally out of it.
He was super inconsistent. He was always inconsistent. I think we remember the high highs,
to
and
be
we're like,
more
"Wow, UCal
consistent.
good," and then like you see the lows, and you're like, "Ooh," and then you're like,
carried
"UCal
some games,
average."
though.
Is
Yeah.
LCK
not
Cup
what
he
I
was
like.
good.
yeah, like he
LCK
carried some
Cup,
games
he was actually good.
in
He
the
was,
LCK
yeah.
Cup. Like
Rich also, there were a few good games, and you were like, "Wait a minute."
There were more
and then
for
you were
UCal.
like, "Ah."
No more good games for
Yeah.
Rich.
Yeah.
yeah, so
They
their
have
solo laners disappeared.
what are they modes? Teddy, please, which doesn't work, and Sponge, please, which also doesn't work.
and Pleta, why?
Yeah.
Not even Alt
And
has given
Andal?
up.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh.
Because I had that feeling when Andal came back. I was like, oh, he's recharged. He's ready to go. And it was
I don't know how to explain. Like I used to know, like when Sponge first came to the LCK, but I don't know how to explain his playstyle now. Like I actually oftentimes when I think about DRX, I like forget who the jungler is for a second. I'm like, who's the jungler? I'm like, oh yeah, it's Sponge. But like, I feel like he is the most like, for me, like lowest impact jungler like in the LCK. Like I just don't. I feel like PogState. I'm like
There's a
PogState.
team below that.
No.
I don't know. Sponge to me, like I feel like is one of the
he's
the
the
problems.
second lowest. You can say that.
Yeah, but I think he's one of the problems because he doesn't, like when Rich is having a tough lane or Rich is getting pushed in, like he doesn't support, he doesn't help UCal as much as he did in the early season. I feel like earlier on he helped UCal a lot, and UCal had a lot of individual
I feel
pop-off
like
moments.
Sponge does have a lot of fires to put out. I think he's under a lot of pressure, but I also think that Sponge tunnels on what he wants to do in the early game and does not have very much ability to adapt.
He's playing with 3 losing lanes. I do think when he's behind, he's objectively not a good jungler, but he's also for me one of the only like little. It's not a lot, we talk about
The
the moon.
glimmer of hope.
It's not a moon. It's like a tiny star. It's like a tiny little.
Okay, who's the planet? Teddy?
Well, no, there is no. It's DRX. There's
Well,
just.
to be a moon, to have a moon, there has to be like a planet that it goes around.
Well, I don't
Yeah,
know
it's not
that.
a
We
moon.
don't see the planet.
Like BDD and Cuz were the planet in my
No,
last analogy.
I'm sorry, it's
No planet.
it's Pluto, dude. Like we're just declassifying.
It's a Pluto- it's a Pluto
We're
situation.
declassifying it. It's just a rock in
I
space,
see.
as it turns out.
I see.
Is DRX the only team they've beaten this DNF as well?
I'm not sure about that. But
Well-
it does
well,
seem, yeah.
It would have to be
It
unless
has to be.
DRX versus DNF is next week, which I don't
It's
think
not,
it is.
it's not.
Yeah. I think they only beat DNF. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is that really a win?
Do we want to? I don't want to talk about DNF.
Can we just say that they don't look like
None of the players.
some of the
look
individual
like the
players don't look good at all? Like they don't even belong in LCK.
Free
and also,
Berserker.
Also,
That's
as
what
a
I wanna
team,
say.
Yeah, Berserker's
Free
not
Berserker.
not one of those players that doesn't look like they don't know what they're doing.
Also,
he
have
knows
you
what
seen
he's
some
doing.
of the mic checks, man? Like,
Yeah.
This is what I
Berserker
was gonna
does
say.
not stop talking. This guy
Yeah.
is like
He's trying to hype everybody up.
so hard.
Yeah,
There are
but
s-
the team does not know how to play like a team, and I don't know why. They don't know
mean,
what to do.
They don't have a
five of them
supporter
think-
jungle.
There's the shot calling. They don't have players. It's just
They
it's-
don't have a
it's
supporter
dorked.
jungle.
It's
I don't
over.
think they trust each other.
Yeah.
Like when you see the comms, like one person saying one thing, the other person saying another thing. They seem almost confused
It's
by
all
the
over
game
place.
state.
Everybody's talking at the same
And
time.
when Berserker is the guy who's making a lot of the calls and he's the best performing player as the AD carry, we've talked about this countless times. Like that's usually who you don't want to be making the calls, especially when they're the best performing player and they're the AD carry. They're already under an insane amount of pressure. They're trying to do the AD carry damage, trying to do boom boom.
Yep.
But they got to do like a lot of the talk, and it's not great. I think the laning phase when they're not playing together, like everyone lanes fine. Like it's not like people are getting giga gapped most of the time.
No,
But then when we leave the lane, it's like,
it's over.
how can they couldn't figure out how to get a scuttle crab, like
Yep.
like they can't figure out like when they have a lead after lane to like how to even like push prio and like contest a red buff, like they don't know how to do like these basic things, and then they try to do a thing and then they say 3 different things and then Bulldog dies randomly, or like Berserker tries to follow up on something and then the rest of the team is leaving and it's like Berserker dies and you're like, oh, what is happening?
I don't want to talk about them. It's sad. A lot of these players are way better than they're playing. Like
I think
live.
Pungyan's better than Bulldog.
That's true.
I'm not
So
sure
they
about
made
life, though.
they made a positive.
No, I'm
change.
saying it's like Life and Dudu are shades of their former selves.
Yeah.
Why does Dudu suck so much now?
It's not very nice.
Hard to
Compared
know.
to, like,
you said that KT has no
I only-
positive quality.
So I only say that because
You were
I
a guy-
know
you were a Dudu
what-
guy.
I know what he's capable
Top
of.
3 top laner.
There's a
remember back in
reason
the
why
day?
we were talking about the Dusante. Like, Dudu, I watched him
Dusai?
hard win a game by himself in a brush next to Red Buff on Aatrox, just obliterate 5 people alone. He did that. And he wasn't even in a like giga winning game state. He was just, nah, man, I'm him. And he was. And now he's not even trying to be him.
Shades of Guangdong.
I think that you have to like. you
So
have-
sad.
I think we have to realize that team synergy and building that is like has always historically been one of the hardest things. Like D Plus really struggled with this, even though
Yeah,
they were
true.
a middle of the pack team. They couldn't find a shot calling voice in
Are
their
you
hands.
saying that DNF just needs barrel?
I'm just saying DNF needs probably a new roster. Good luck in 2026, because I think this problem you can't solve unless you just keep rotating
It's like
players out.
Nomshim 2022, right?
Yeah, you
it's
just-
like,
you
it's like
can't
similar
solve
to
it.
that, right?
It's gone. Yeah,
Where-
they're-
Everybody's
They're
lost
too in too
confidence.
deep.
They don't have any voices outside of Berserker's trying his absolute best, but can't.
At least
because
it's
he's
I
an
mean,
AD carry.
maybe actually Legend and Rise Group is going to be the best possible thing for DNF, is that they won't have competition that's ludicrously far above them to completely slaughter any
I
hope
thought we
on
already
the
kind of made it
field.
clear that all the other teams on the
Ox-
east side are ludicrously
Okay, but they are right. They are right now.
No, but they'd be able to face off against DRX more often.
Ox and I casted Bro versus DNF, and I don't want to do that again. I don't want to do it
We'll
again.
be doing it
that was
3
that
or
was
4 more times.
That was not good. No, we really struggled with that. It was really bad.
I
And it
listen-
felt really bad because
Honestly,
DNF had
as a
chances and
listener
they
though,
lost.
and as a viewer, I really enjoyed that cast because I could hear
Yeah,
how
well.
difficult it was for you guys, but also it was endearing to be on that journey of
So,
of pain and suffering.
In
on
Korea,
such.
there's a thing that that we call in Korean like workshop. It's what you call workshop, where you get to know people on your team, like in a company, in a business, your coworkers. And what you normally do is you like hike to the top of a mountain, or you
onto
take this kind of trip together. And
Wait, do you bring the
it's a team
ramen to
building.
the top of the
Oh,
mountain?
you bring
and
Yeah,
well,
you
it,
drink
the
the
makgeolli?
makgeolli.
sometimes
the
it's in a
soju.
sometimes it's in
Oh,
like a nice
yeah.
hotel. It depends on the circumstance. Depends on your company, etc.
Pension.
Pension could be a pension, which is like a nice house that everyone stays in for a few days. And anyway, you drink a lot, you talk a lot, you get to know each other, you become friends with each other. That's the goal, right? Like
Yep.
you kind of get plastered, and you're like, now I love everyone, now I know everyone. So instead of the guy asking me to do something, I get a little bit annoyed because I don't like how he asks, or like, I'm really uncomfortable asking this guy for a favor to work together as a team because maybe
now
maybe
I know
he's
how
going to be
this person
uncomfortable. Now I know how to
just in
interact with
real
him.
life. Yeah.
I feel like this, like if the approach from DNF is like we better play more solo queue games and work on our mechanics, I'm like that's 100% not what you need to do.
No, it's kumbaya in the mountains.
Yeah, you
That's
need
what
to
you need.
actually know each other, figure each other's like tendencies and styles out, and how like the best way to tell people what to do is because I think that's like what this team needs. They need to actually figure out how to be a
They
team.
need a Mighty Ducks montage. That's what they need to skate through the shopping center and all that sort of stuff.
There's some content for DK where Showmaker and Lucid go to Vietnam and drink.
Oh yeah, that was actually peak.
That's what they do.
And they've got
with the whole
so
team.
many fans of Vietnam as well.
so
Like,
funny.
and so does Bro actually.
Yeah,
like,
shout out to
Morgan
Vietnam.
is like
VCS,
giga famous. in
VN
VCS.
Cost,
You know why-
one of our goats.
The second that Wolf started talking about this, I had kind of a light bulb moment because we recently on the space we interviewed 2 players. One of them was Morgan, and another one was, I think it was Diablo from BNK.
Yeah, you did
But
have
we
Diablo.
asked the same question to both of them, which was, you had a rough LCK Cup. How did you turn it around? And the both of them were like, well, we just kind of got drunk together and like had some time off. And those are the teams that have seen big improvements, whereas DNF have not.
So
I
what
think
we're
they
saying
need to do
is,
that.
from the PogState, you should drink more with your friends, and you'll be better.
Or
Soju
just
power.
spend time. You don't have to drink. That's okay. You can just spend time together.
I think
Maybe
Do
play some board
activities.
games.
Yeah.
I would rather see though, like I think with a
Wait,
CB
actually,
Max,
no, hang on. We should have said they need to drink Cass together.
Yes,
yeah.
Oh, I take it. You need to drink Cass together, and then you'll all be better.
I think with the CV Max mentality that was just like spam solo queue
Sponsor the
grind,
PogState.
that was like if that sort of approach is being applied here, I think it's the worst possible thing. I'd rather see like Berserker chill on a bench somewhere and watch like the top in jungle and then the mid and support like tie like their feet together and do like a 3-legged race. I think I would actually be more
Do you know
helpful.
what? Do you know what I? Do you know
So
what I just
true.
saw like so clearly in my mind's eye? The DNF Twitter post saying "Welcome CVMax" because he's just been let go from GH.
No.
No.
You know the log thing? I feel like right now they're not carrying a log.
Vivid.
No.
They're just like each individual person is trying to lift me.
No.
I'm just trying to talk
Can we
over
end
this
the-
because it's not
No.
happening.
No. You know,
Wait,
Taylor
what does the
is good
sheet
now,
say? Can
apparently.
we end?
Well,
No.
no, actually, we have one more topic, which I think
It's
we
a
actually
fun one.
we can get through very quickly. Perfect game. Plates.
Yeah, it was a perfect game the other day.
Yeah,
It was a
plates don't
perfect
exist.
game.
Grubs don't exist. Perfect
Boom.
games existed when it was dragons. Perfect
Tower.
games
Barons,
existed with towers,
towers,
with
and
barons,
kills.
and kills, and
If
we
you
need
put-
to keep it that way to preserve what a perfect game has always
Yes,
meant
I
throughout
think
all the
we
years.
all agree. I think if you're going to put grubs in, it has to be a full 3 grub set. Like if you
Yes.
want to do
Yeah.
that, it has to be the
Yes.
full 3
Free,
grub set.
free. I would accept.
Three is an
Yeah.
objective.
Yeah.
Three's
For
an
the
objective.
bounty
And-
thing.
Yeah,
for
and
feats.
League of Legends has already identified that it does not count as an
All
objective.
right. Well, we figured it out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
I
it was
knew-
a
I
perfect
knew we
game.
were gonna-
It was a perfect game.
Yeah, it was a perfect game.
It was.
And
was a perfect
then
game.
there was another opportunity for another one without the grub discourse, and then Rich ruined it.
Rich played Yorick and pushed 2 turrets.
And what we found
Disgrace.
out was that Yorick is just overpowered. Morgan played it today. Looked absolutely unstoppable.
Actually did.
The Ghoulie Wall stopping Scion at every instance? You guys thought that Nidalee was the counter. Nuh-uh. It's Yorick all the way. All the way, baby. Is that what we're going to end on?
All right. We figured it out. I hate Yorick. I think he's terrible.
Anyway,
I love Yorick.
I think like we have to make this perfect game thing a thing. I can't have I like all
Yeah, we
of
need
the
to
hype.
talk to the stats team.
Yeah, all of the hype around a perfect game is just like killed by one single. No, that is not.
It's also
I'm not
because
about
taking
that.
a grub requires 0 investment. You literally just need smite and like I don't. Yeah.
I think people should be more mad about this than they were about Fearless.
yeah.
And then Riot will actually just make it a thing.
Yeah.
Be mad about it. Why aren't you people
Bring back
outraged?
perfect game 2025. We gotta bring it back. Oh
Yeah.
god, we can't do that. That's Project 2025. No, I hate
No, it's Project
fascism.
2026.
I hate fascism. Don't. It's Project 20.
Why are we talking
It's
about
25.
fascism now, though?
Yeah,
I
it's
get it,
25.
but like,
Because it's the Project 2025.
I know.
That's I want to. It's gonna get cut anyway. It's fine.
Don't cut it, just for him. I think that will do it. But I do really want to hear from you guys about your opinion about the perfect game, because I don't think
and,
like
and whether or not you're
3
wrong.
grubs is the only way to define a lost perfect game. As long as they're all in the same set. You take 2 on one and 1 on the other, also doesn't count,
One
by the
full
way.
set of grubs.
You need to get a feat of strength for taking the grubs. That's how it's going to count. So make sure we give back that perfect game. That's what we need to do. That one grub didn't actually mess things up at all. But this is going to do it for us. I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. I know it was a lot of yapping about a lot of teams, but we have so many feelings, and we're just hoping that all of our teams get it together so we can be as powerful as possible moving towards MSI and then eventually Worlds.
I'm hoping for some more full Peters.
Yeah, we're on full Peters. Everyone needs to go full
Peters.
vibes, full Peters, and everything is going to be
I'm
absolutely
so
fine.
glad he's back.
His Nico is like legitimately extraordinarily good. We're not going to get into it again. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks for some more PogState. Bye-bye!